Okay, guys, we have Cassidy with us from United States, and as what I promised you, we'll have something a bit special, not the usual stuff, not very usual stuff. Somebody who sent in unsolicited email. I'm not gonna use S word. Okay, Sky, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's a little bit choppy on my end, but I think you can hear me well, so that's that's good.
You sound good. Okay, just go ahead with your presentation.
Okay, excellent, Anton. I'll go ahead and jump right into it. Basically, today I'm going to be talking about B2B versus B2C email marketing, more specifically about the key differences in benchmarks and KPIs in the two, and what you should expect in the B2B email lead generation campaigns versus what people have traditionally thought they need to see with benchmarks, and why that is. So I've been involved in the creation and running of B2B email campaigns for a little over 10 years, probably getting closer to 15 years now. My company now we're a data company. We provide data for marketing campaigns, so we don't run campaigns for clients. We only provide the initial data set. But I have done a lot of running campaigns for clients in the past, and we have a lot of clients now who run client campaigns that we provide the data for. Something that I noticed when I was running a lot of marketing campaigns was I was always trying to figure out how I could better make my campaigns more effective. And when looking at what to expect out there for these benchmarks, I was always felt like I was coming in well under where I should be. And it basically looked like I was failing constantly with my marketing campaigns, but they were doing well on the back end. We were getting good sales results off of them, and I thought, are these numbers just inflated by the people providing them? Should we be doing even better? What's going on with this? And what I saw when I looked into it is the numbers that we see out there, they're all coming from B2C email delivery companies. That's where all the stats come from. These companies compile the stats and they put them out there. And running a B2B email lead generation campaign is very different from what's being done on those platforms. So that's what I'm going to. There we go. It's probably a little bit of a delay. The connection seems a little slow. Sorry about that. I'm not sure where that's coming from. Everything was running very smooth when we tested the other day. So the main message I want to get across here to everybody is that everything they think they know is wrong, and that's when it comes to B2B email lead generation campaigns. That's new lead generation. The reason everything's wrong is what I just talked about a minute ago. It all goes back to constantly the source of these stats are B2C delivery services. And the type of things that are being done on those services are self-generated data, so people have their own newsletter lists, opt-in data, again, people's existing list of customers, and it's all for consumer products for the most part. Occasionally you'll see a B2B newsletter being run in there, but it's vastly overweighed by the amount of consumer product, opt-in newsletter style campaigns that are being done. And that's where all these benchmarks and KPIs are coming from. So moving on, the email delivery services we're talking about here, everybody knows these names: Constant Contact, MailChimp. They're great services, and they're really good services to use for your newsletters. They're very inexpensive. They do a good job, but they're designed for opt-in stuff only, and you're not going to get new lead generation from opt-in campaigns. You get the data, you already have the lead. The people have opted in to talk to you. When you're looking at B2B new lead generation, you're looking to find new prospects and customers, typically from a purchase list. So that's where we're focusing here, is really on that new lead generation, how it differs, what you should really expect. When you're looking at these companies, Constant Contact, MailChimp, the flip side of that is a company like ClickBack. They're very good at handling new lead generation campaigns, and they're a self-service like Constant Contact, or a company like DivTech that handles the campaign for you. Wherever you get your data for your new lead generation campaigns, I would ask them, hey, who should I use for the delivery of these campaigns? If they tell you Constant Contact and MailChimp, maybe look at another source for your data, because they should really know better than to send you to Constant Contact and MailChimp with purchase list. One thing about the Constant Contacts and the MailChimps, the reason they have these stats and the way they are is their business is really getting in emails into inboxes, same as clickback, emails into inboxes, but they're really focused on the newsletter side of things because that's a really easy delivery. That's going to get into the inboxes. They're going to have a very low bounce rate, very low complaint rate, and they'll actually identify you as using purchase list. People say, how would they know if I was using a purchase list? Well, you're going to have a higher bounce rate and a higher complaint rate off a purchase list. And so actually when they see something that's affecting their stats in a downward way, that's when they're going to come to you and say, hey, it looks like you're using a purchase list. You can't use our service anymore. So they're naturally actually keeping their stats inflated by not allowing people to use purchase lists, do lead generation, and kicking you off when they do identify the stats you have don't match up with what you should be expecting off that type of campaign. So moving on, open and click rates, those are the main things that people look at when they're looking at campaigns. For opt-in and B2C campaigns, you're going to look at the stats out there, you're going to see open rates around 25%. That's 1 in 4 people receiving your email opening it. That's a really high rate. Click rates, 3% plus of your overall data. The rate I really like is a click to open rate. That tells you a lot more about the interest and about what's actually going on with your campaigns. Your open rate is going to be all about your subject line and the email actually having ended up in their inbox. Whereas the click to open rate is saying of the people who clicked and viewed your email, clicked isn't the right word to use, who opened and viewed your email, how many of those clicked on a link in the email? And that's the stat you really want to pay attention to. So looking at a click rate of 3%, that's on your overall number of emails sent. What you really want to focus on is the people who clicked based on the number of people who opened. So how many people saw your creative and clicked? And you're looking at 12% plus there with the opt-in B2C campaigns. B2B lead gen campaigns, you might only have an open rate of 5%. That's a good open rate for most B2B campaigns. And then your click rate, you're going to have a 0.5% on your click rate there. If you're looking at the benchmarks for B2C and your bosses are looking at those benchmarks and you're getting a 0.5% click rate, they expect 3, 4, 5% click rate based on the benchmarks, the KPIs that are published out there for email marketing. It's going to look like you're doing a really bad job. So it's really important that when you're doing the B2B email lead generation campaigns, in order to keep your job and whatnot, that you're looking at the right stats and that these other stats do not apply to you. So click to open rate 10%. If you have a 0.5% on the click rate, 5% open rate, you're looking at about a 10% click to open rate. It actually gets closer to the click to open rate for a opt-in or B2C campaigns. Direct response rate on B2B lead gen is something that you look at frequently. You may be directing people to a landing page, something like that, but frequently on B2B campaigns you're actually looking for a direct response as well. And I typically see 1 in 2,000 as a pretty good direct response rate. It really varies depending on your industry. B2B, the difficulty there with these kind of benchmarks is depending on who you're targeting, the industry they're in, the product that you have, it can fluctuate quite a bit. B2C, consumers just kind of average out. So you see pretty consistent stuff there. But don't be shocked if your B2B email lead generation campaigns are a little higher or lower than what we're seeing here. Really what you need to measure up against is what works for your company. Are these results getting you guys the sales that you need? Are you getting the ROI on these campaigns? So one more thing to look at actually with these stats that's interesting to know. I don't really like to calculate it in, but when you're talking about the open rate, open rates are calculated by an image being downloaded into the email when it's open. We've seen over time about half of the people that we target have images turned off by default on their email. So you're not going to register an open with these people. Even when they do open your email, it's not going to register as an open. And the way to figure out what percentage of your population that's opening your email isn't registering is look at your clicks and match the people who clicked to the people who opened, and you'll find there's a good percentage of those who clicked but didn't register as an open. Now, it's not possible to click on a link in your email without opening it. That's because they're not downloading images, those people aren't. Another reason why it's important not to have most of your email image-based, but I don't want to get off track here. So you can figure out kind of what open rate you actually have a little better that way. You're looking at relativity here with these things, so you don't need to do those calculations constantly with your campaigns. But it is good to know if you have 500 opens on a campaign, you likely actually had 1,000 opens on that campaign. When you measure stuff, though, look at your click to open rate and measure that against your own campaigns, especially on B2B email lead generation campaigns. So you don't need to be doing that math constantly. Moving on to the next one here. So another myth, if you're doing B2B email lead generation campaigns, people are always saying, what's the best day of the week to send out on? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's when you need to be sending out. Not necessarily true. That stat here, you see this little graph here is provided by MailChimp. All the stats you're seeing are provided by these companies. Keep going back to what's the source, and it's always going to be the consumer email distribution companies like MailChimp. So they're showing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Okay, that's great, but for you, B2B, what matters most? Well, you need to hit people when they're actually at work so they can receive your email most likely, and when they're available. When they're available at work is really important. So really, if everybody looks at a graph like this and says, okay, we need to send our B2B email lead generation campaigns on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then everybody receiving these emails is going to have a whole lot of stuff to go through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They're going to spend a lot less time glancing at each email before they decided to throw it away. And you're not going to have the opportunity for them to see your message. If you start sending on Monday and Friday, you might actually find people have a lot less mail in their inbox, and they'll take an extra second to look at your message, and it might be that second that you need for it to click with them. So really, B2B email lead generation campaigns, don't look at these graphs that come from consumer stuff. Just think, when are my people in the office? It can vary. Maybe in your industry, people tend to be out in the middle of the week because they're outside salespeople, and you want to target them when they're back in, and they're usually in early on Monday and late on Friday. Then that's when you need to send your campaigns. In general, I like to encourage people to send all days of the week, try varying the times, find out what works best for you, what works best for your company, because B2B can vary so much, and then just go with those days. Just make sure you're not going off a MailChimp stat, a constant contact stat, something like that. It's all for consumer campaigns. Another area that I've heard thrown around a lot by managers and by management is response times. They say, a stat that's out there just kind of floating around is the contact rate, the qualification rate on leads from emails. The first 5 minutes is critical. 5 to 30 minutes is also critical for that 100 times decrease you see here from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. That's for consumer products. When people are looking at a watch or a phone or a sweater or sunglasses, whatever it is they're considering, they have a very short attention span as consumers do. They're probably not looking for something they need, it's just something they want. Businesses are very different in that. Responding to people immediately might actually freak them out versus get you the sale. And a business sales cycle is much longer. So this initial feedback time is also much longer. I always say for people, look for 24 hours. If you're not responding within 24 hours of an email lead, especially a direct response lead, then you need to make some adjustments to your campaign. But don't dump a whole bunch of time and resources into trying to figure out how to get your leads in front of your people within 5 minutes and having them follow up. It's going to annoy your salespeople, and you're wasting your effort. That stat sounds great. People love to throw it around and hammer their team with it, but it's a business to consumer stat. It doesn't apply to you if you're doing B2B lead generation. Next thing we have here is devices used. As we have more tablets, more smartphones, people love talking about how everybody's doing all this stuff on tablets and smartphones now. It's true, people are using those a lot more, but when it comes to checking business emails, no, they're on their desktop most of the time. This is, again, a consumer stat. It's tracked by the same companies. It's all consumer information. If you're sending out B2B email lead generation campaigns, focus on the desktop. You don't need to invest a whole bunch of your time and energy optimizing your emails and your messaging for these tablets and smartphones. What's nice is it's easy out there now. There's templates, all that kind of stuff that are ready-made for you to do that. But time is a great commodity. It's our biggest limiting factor when we're doing marketing. Typically, focus on something a little more effective than really trying to optimized for smartphones. You're not getting 47% of people viewing your business message on smartphones. They're sitting at their desk and viewing it. That's how it is in this world. You see this movable ink company here. This is what they do. They make these creatives for people to display properly on smartphones and tablets. So of course, this is a stat that they're going to go out, find, and promote, but they're not going to tell you the underlying where it's from. They're not really going to highlight the fact that, oh, by the way, this is business to consumer stat. Let's see what we have here next for you. I've got a case study. This came from a partner of ours that's running these campaigns. Again, we don't run marketing campaigns ourselves. Their client was a B2B service company that provided workers' compensation related training for injury prevention in the workplace. They focused heavily on the warehouse environment. We provided them a list of 65,000 HR and warehouse contacts in companies that were targeted to have warehouses. They had an email creative that was click to white paper without any gating on it. And what that means is they had a white paper that would be relevant to their target audience. It's about workers' comp and injury prevention. And they put a little blurb of that white paper into an email with a link to click through to the rest of the white paper. No gating, if you're not familiar with that. That means when they click to go through the white paper, they didn't have to put in any information, any of their information in order to access the white paper. Click directly through the white paper. The reason there's no gating on these type of campaigns is you're going to lose people whenever you have them fill in information. The more information, the more you lose. When it's a direct email campaign, rather than general traffic being driven through SEO or through your website, something like that, you know who's going there anyway because you have the click information. So if the only people you're sending this to is through your email campaigns, if you're going to do it a different way, we recommend you separate them so you don't have to gate your email campaigns. Then everyone who clicks has read that first blurb about the white paper and is now going through to read the rest. There's no need to gate these people. You have way more information in the list you already have that you marketed to than they could ever put in through any sort of gating. And this way, you don't have any drop off. So anyway, moving on, the execution of the campaign, 65,000 contacts, they split up into 5 equal parts, 13,000 each, and sent out every day, Monday through Friday, and they would send this out every week for a month. So people would be getting 4 times, or for 4 weeks, I guess you'd say, 4-week segments. Didn't always equal a month, but people would be getting the same exact message every week, 4 weeks in a row, and then they would switch over to a new white paper, a new message, and do the same thing. 4 weeks in a row, same message, varying subject lines some, but in general, same message for 4 weeks, and they did that for 12 months. The first month of that period, they tested optimizing subject lines, optimizing the content a little bit. So really, these results are based on an 11-month period. Now, the clicks and responses that the marketing company ran for the client were provided to the client to follow up on an ongoing basis. And here's the general stats they had were an open rate of about 5.5%, a little higher than what we saw on average as a good benchmark, so that's good. Click to open rate of 11%, a little higher also, that's nice. They were seeing about 2,000 leads per month on average from this campaign, so that's a really good number of leads to be feeding their salespeople. And what they got from that was they were able to eliminate cold calling. Basically, a lot of people say cold calling's dead nowadays. It's not really dead, but why cold call on somebody when you can warm them up a little bit and really help identify your better prospects with something like this? So they were handing people who clicked through to a white paper rather than just giving their salespeople a list. They found a cost per lead of about $4 per lead. Remember, a lead is a click, so it's a very soft, just an opening of a lead, but that's what their salespeople needed to get in the door here. This increased their sales by 20% by the end of the first year. I think they had a sales cycle of about 3 to 4 months, so you're seeing a little bit of a lag there as well. Over time, they probably see that amount going up, and they're a pretty good sized company, so 20% was a really good boost to their sales there. ROI on this campaign was about 1,200%. That seems like a huge ROI, or some people might say it doesn't seem like much if you do a lot of email marketing successfully, but ROI varies greatly in B2B campaigns. It depends on a lot of things. You might have an ROI, you see here, 130%. Some people consider a very good ROI. It really depends in B2B, the massive fluctuation on products, on industry, on who you're targeting. It really depends on your company specifically, so it's hard to benchmark ROI against other companies, other industries with different products and different targets. But it comes down to what ROI works for you. They saw what they considered a very good ROI of 1,200% here. We've seen ROIs on campaigns up in the 3,000+%. If you have a target that works really well with this type of marketing and a product that has a high value, you're just going to see a much higher ROI, much bigger margins there. This campaign was, I forgot to throw this in there, but it was run in 2014, January through December was the stats we were looking at for this. So that's kind of the time frame that we have there. What do I have for you next? So, in summary, basically, when you're doing your email marketing, develop your own stats. Statistics lie. Everything you see out there is about B2C email marketing. If you're doing B2C email marketing, I'm sorry, this whole thing is about basically B2B and how it differs. Those benchmarks are great for you, but B2B email lead generation marketing, develop your own statistics is what it basically comes down to. These are some rough general benchmarks, but look at what works for you, what you need to get out of the campaign, what you want to get out of the campaign, and then look to improve on that. Don't look at the stats that are out there from these B2C deployment companies. They're going to throw you off, and if your bosses are looking at those stats, point out to them that those do not apply to you. Look at what the source is and help yourself out with that. One other thing I want to cover here is I talk about this kind of stuff, and people want to know about the campaigns themselves. How can they run better campaigns? That's not what this is about. I always get questions about this, so I want to kind of cut it off ahead of time. Look for a company, like I mentioned earlier in here, a div tech, somebody who can run the campaigns for you is always a good solution. There's a lot of tips on how to run these campaigns. We have a white paper ourselves. If anybody wants it, reach out to me and I'll get that sent to you, or I'll give it to Anton and he can give it out to you guys. It give you kind of best practices on running these campaigns. If you don't run your campaigns properly, you are going to have a really difficult time hitting these benchmarks. Email marketing is a great tool, but there's so many areas that you can trip up and have devastating effects in your email marketing and really kill your numbers that you need to make sure you're getting those details right. So I'll provide that white paper to Anton after, and you guys can get it from him or just come to me directly, and I'll make sure we get that to you.
I had several follow-up questions, as you probably answered. Somebody asked, do you provide data? But it's B2C, I understand. Or you do only B2B, or what you said, you just said, don't. If you don't know how to do it, don't bother, just go to professional and arrange a campaign.
Yeah, my company really specializes in B2B data. There are a lot of B2C companies out there, but we're not good at that. That's not our area of expertise, so we don't.
Okay, Victor Valdez, it's answer. They only do B2B. So if it's a B2B, you can talk to Sky. Otherwise, there are plenty of others. We won't tell. Okay, there were plenty of comments. Actually, people are very well. It's kind of sensitive issue because today we have, I don't know, something like 18 presentation in Russian, and after that before you 4 in English, and they were all saying no spam. You didn't say spam, but yeah, well, it's yeah, what.
Yeah, it's a very sensitive subject. Let me address that a little bit. Basically, any unsolicited emails are considered spam. So B2B email lead generation, the hard definition of it, most people will consider that spam. That's why you really need to make sure you stick to best practices. Now, we have a law here in the U.S. called the Can-Spam Act. It is called the Can-Spam, not the Can't Spam. We're a capitalist country, and our Congress recognizes that you need to let businesses market themselves. And so just like they don't say you can't send people physical mail, they don't want to say you can't send email. But they also recognize there's a problem with junk email. And so they put rules around best practices of of marketing people to make sure people aren't being deceptive, people aren't sending unwanted junk, and that people can be removed from marketing campaigns. So it's really important. That's again one of the things in the best practice, that people stick to those for their campaigns to go well, because email marketing is a great tool, but if you misuse it and you get yourself put into the category of a spammer, you're really doing yourself a disservice. You do not want to do that. You need to make sure you're marketing to a targeted audience where your message is relevant to them. The case study that I gave was a really good one, in that their targeted audience was an audience that did not get a lot of email marketing to them. You're talking about HR people and warehouse managers specifically. The warehouse managers, not a lot of people are pitching products to them by email, and their message was very well targeted to them. You're talking about workplace injuries, it's relevant for them. If you're sending a message that's not relevant to people, has nothing to do with their job, then you're going to get complaints. You're going to get yourself in trouble. You want to stay away from that. Make sure your data is targeted, that your marketing and your messaging is targeted, and that you're based. Just have good messaging, have it be relevant, and follow the rules, and you won't get in trouble. Now, other countries know the laws in your country. Canada, do not send unsolicited emails. We stopped selling Canadian List a while ago. Now, we still sell some Canadian Lists. I'll backtrack on that, because people use it for a lot more phone marketing now. People are complaining in Canada now because they said you cannot send unsolicited emails. And now everybody's phones are blowing up, because how are these people going to market? They're going to start calling you on the phone now. They're going to start marketing to you in other ways. Businesses are not going to stop marketing. So what you need to do with your marketing is make sure it's targeted and relevant. So yes, any unsolicited bulk email, that's what we call it here, because the spam, that's a bad word. People consider it spam. The key thing here is, what are the people that are receiving your message consider it? One, check the laws in your country, but perfectly legal to send unsolicited bulk email. There's rules around exactly how to do it. But two, make sure the person that's receiving your email isn't going to consider it spam. That's the key thing. That's who you do not want considering a spam. It needs to be relevant to them, targeted to them.
So if it's relevant, it's still fine. If it's not relevant, it's just shit, forget about it. Okay, I have a question. It was on one of slides of yours about services, ASP, which you can use for this kind of type. You mentioned that constant contact and MailChimp and GetResponse would not do that, or you'll get banned very quick. But they ask question, actually, which one would you think is good?
The company we recommend right now, the best company we found, is a company called Clickback. They're very good with this kind of stuff. We use them in our own marketing. That's who we use when we're reaching out for lead generation. And then a company for if you don't want to manage your own campaigns, if you don't want to be setting them up and doing the creative and setting up the sends and looking at all the stats, basically like you would with the constant contact. If you want somebody to manage it for you, the company we had there was DivTech, DivTech LLC. They're a very good company for that. Another one off the top of my head I know of, Distribuon. They're a company out of Texas, and they'll manage your email campaigns, your lead generation campaigns for you. Those are two that we really know what they're doing. When we talk to them, we provide lists to them for their campaigns regularly.
You've done a webinar with them recently, haven't you?
Distribuon we did a webinar with recently. Yeah.
It.
If you want to look that webinar up, it's really good. It mimics our best practices white paper, actually, because the best practices just are the best practices. You want to follow those.